stay behind
Chains
me.
rattled against the stone as they dragged her through the crowded market.
They're so close.
The metal cuffs had rubbed her wrists raw, streaks of pale blood against light purple skin. Her long white hair, once braided with care and woven with silver cords of rank, now hung loose and tangled, catching the dust that swirled beneath the burning suns overhead. For eyes, two set wide, two beneath, scanned the crowd. She did not bow her head. Pride wasn't armor, but it was all she had left. The people of the marketplace gawked openly. Some laughed. Others spat. A boy in the crowd pointed and shouted, "Spider Witch." The insult echoed, triggering a ripple of cruel amusement. Traders slapped their thighs, leaning forward as though she were not a person but a rare beast paraded for their inspection. A woman near the front hissed, "Freak," and flung a rotten fruit that splattered at her feet. She kept walking. Each step was measured, deliberate, though the stones beneath cut into her bare soles. Her name, now nearly lost to the market's noise, was Saris Vera, once commander of the Verethan vanguard. Just 3 weeks ago she had led warriors across mountain ridges. 3 days ago she had still clung to the hope of rescue. Now, she led only herself, across the dust, toward the auction block. They had broken her body, yes. They had not broken her gaze. With 4 eyes, she saw more than most. She saw the guards exchanging bets behind their backs. She saw merchants counting credit chips in anticipation. She saw, too, the faint shape of mountains on the horizon, hazy and unreachable. She fixed her focus there, the only trace of freedom she allowed herself. The first days after capture had blurred into agony. The prison beneath the market was a honeycomb of damp stone and steel, designed to erase time. Guards arrived without pattern, dragging captives into circular chambers. They called it conditioning. Few returned whole. On her 4th day, they had pulled Saris into one such chamber, tossing her weapons into her hands while 2 starving prisoners stumbled toward her with knives dulled by rust. The guards jeered, "Show us what a Verethan officer can do." She disarmed both quickly, refusing to strike fatal blows. The crowd booed. The guards demanded blood. She had denied them, and her reward had been the whip. 20 lashes across her back until skin tore and muscle screamed. Even now, each step across the marketplace pulled at scars that had not healed. Worse than pain were the inspections. Potential buyers walked through the cell rows days before auction, poking, prying, laughing. One collector of exotic specimens had forced her to recite Verethan war chants while recording the guttural syllables. "Sing the death of your people," he had laughed. She obeyed only to survive, but each word had tasted like betrayal. Now, as the auctioneer shoved her up onto a platform of welded scrap, Saris scanned the sea of faces desperately, hoping against logic that the girl might appear. She saw only cruelty reflected back. A man shifted in the shadows of a vendor stall. He stood taller than most, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a weathered coat that dragged the dust with its hem. One eye only, the other taken by an old scar that twisted his face into a permanent half-grimace. His single eye, gray as storm clouds, followed her movements with focus that was neither hungry nor mocking. His name, though she did not yet know it, was Kalen Drax. The auctioneer, a rail-thin figure with metal rods protruding from his skull, jabbed Saris's chin upward with a staff. 4 eyes. Strong frame. Soldier's stance. Who bids first? He circled her like a vulture. Look at the muscle tone. Endurance. Rare novelty. He struck her calf with his rod, enough to sting, not enough to wound. The front row bidders cackled, one shouting obscene suggestions about how extra eyes could be put to use. Saris fixed her gaze on the mountains. The laughter grew until a single voice cut through it like steel on glass. Who wants to be first? The market stilled. Kalen Drax stepped forward. His coat shifted, revealing the hilt of a blade at his side. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Authority clung to him like shadow. The crowd parted without command. The auctioneer faltered, voice cracking. "Sir, there is procedure." "The bidding." "I'm not bidding." Kalen tossed something onto the platform. A platinum credit chip clinked against the steel. She walks away. "Now." Gasps rippled. That single chip was worth more than every slave in the market combined. The auctioneer's eyes darted from greed to fear. "The consortium has rules." Kalen's hand brushed the hilt of his knife. "So do I." Silence thickened. Then, with a motion so swift the guards barely twitched, he sliced Ceres's chains free. The iron links fell to the platform. "Can you walk?" he asked. Ceres met his storm-gray eye with all four of hers. Her wrists throbbed. Her ankles bled. Still, she nodded. "You just bought trouble," she rasped. Kalen's half-smile cut like broken glass. "I don't buy anything. I break it." Shouts erupted. Guards reached for weapons. Kalen didn't wait. He pulled her into the crowd, moving fast, boots pounding the steel beneath as they slipped into the maze of the city's underbelly. The taste of freedom hit Ceres's mouth like dust and fire. Her chains were gone. But pursuit was inevitable. The market would not let them go without blood. The tunnels stank of oil and steam, pipes sweating overhead, walls weeping rust. Ceres ran barefoot beside Kalen, every step a reminder of how long she had been chained. Her purple skin still bore welts from the manacles, and the long fall of her white hair clung damply to her back. Behind them came the sound of boots and the high-pitched whine of security drones powering up. Kalen didn't look back. He moved like he already knew every passage, every junction. His stride was steady, even with the weight of the knife at his hip and the bulky coat dragging in the narrow space. "Where are you leading us?" she asked, her voice gravel from disuse. "Down," he answered simply, turning a corner into a side shaft. "Always down. They'll close the higher tunnels first." A boom rattled the ground above, showering them with grit. Dust plumed from the ceiling as the shockwave chased them. Ceres grabbed Kalen's arm, yanking him sideways just before a slab of concrete crashed where he had stood. His one gray eye flicked to her. "Thanks," he said, tight-lipped. "Don't thank me yet." Another whine filled the corridor. Red light swept through the smoke, drones. Kalen shoved open a maintenance hatch. "In." They squeezed through just as metallic voices declared, "Unauthorized life forms detected. Lethal force authorized." The hatch sealed behind them, plunging them into darkness. Ceres's four eyes adjusted quickly, catching the outline of Kalen's face, scarred and grim. He pressed his back against the wall, one hand hovering near his knife, listening as the drones passed. Only when the hum faded did he allow himself to move again. "You know this place," she said quietly. His answer was clipped. "Better than most." They pressed on. At an intersection, Kalen hesitated for the first time. He closed his good eye briefly, as if listening to something inside himself, then chose the left path. His steps carried the weight of habit, not thought, as though the labyrinth was carved into his bones. Ceres watched him. She noticed the twitch of his jaw when alarms wailed distantly overhead. She noticed the way his hand sometimes trembled against the wall before steadying. He carried nightmares in his body. At one stop, while they waited for a patrol to clatter past above, Kalen slumped against the wall and dozed off for a breath. His face tightened, lips moving around words she couldn't catch. Then, suddenly, he jerked awake, whispering hoarsely. "No. Not the children." His knife was half drawn before he realized where he was. His eye met Ceres's for. For a moment, she saw the man beneath the scar in silence. "Bad dreams?" she asked. He closed down again like a hatch ceiling. "Just memories." Later, they entered a cavernous transit hub, long abandoned. Skeletons littered the ground, small skeletons, many of them. Clothes still clung to some. Ceres knelt, touching a strip of cloth snagged on bone. Verethan markings. Her people. What happened here, she whispered, though she already knew. Kalen's voice was hollow. Escape route. Sold to the wrong hands. His shoulders hunched. His hand twitched toward his coat pocket, where a small data chip bulged beneath fabric. How many times, she asked. A pause. Then, once. Just once. It only takes once. She rose, stepping carefully around the remains. His path avoided them, too, each step placed with reverence, not fear. Why me? She asked after long silence. Because they laughed, he answered. It startled her, the simplicity of it. That's a poor tactical reason. A sound escaped him, almost a laugh. Didn't say it was tactical. Their march carried them to a chamber humming with coolant towers. Kalen unfolded a small projector, casting a shimmering map. Patrol routes. We need the eastern shaft. Ceres's eyes studied the hologram, each pair focusing differently. Collapse here, she noted. We can cut through. I know the pattern. Siege tactics. Kalen raised a brow. Engineer. Among other things, she said, rolling stiff shoulders. Trust a spider freak. His face hardened. Don't mistake me for them. I'm still deciding what you are. Another explosion collapsed the corridor ahead. Kalen shoved her aside, but a shard of steel buried itself in his thigh. He grunted, collapsing. Ceres dragged him into cover, her hands trembling as blood darkened her fingers. Why would you do that? She hissed. Because no one should die alone. That's not reason. That's pain speaking. We all have scars. He tried to push himself up. She tore strips from her clothes, binding the wound. You'll need a medic, she muttered. Lower sector, he said, pale but steady. If we make it. He fished out a stim injector, but she caught his wrist. Save it. I can't run like this. Then I'll carry you. His mouth quirked, ghost of a smile. Verethans aren't known for kindness. We're known for surviving. He leaned on her, weight heavy but steady. Together, they moved through the crawlway, narrow as a coffin. After long silence, she asked, why were you at the market? Looking for someone. His breath hitched. Not me. Not you. But you intervened anyway. Sometimes the mission changes. When they found an abandoned depot, she scavenged while he hacked an old terminal. The glow lit his scarred face, tension carved into his jaw. Then she saw the screen. Coordinates. Numbers. A refugee convoy designation she knew too well. Her knife was in her hand before thought. 87 survivors, she said, voice trembling with rage. Children. Elders. They vanished. Kalen's I didn't flinch. I was contracted to relay data. I didn't know. You sold them. The blade pressed to his throat. I know, he said quietly. And I can't undo it. But I can help you find the ones still alive. Her hand shook. The urge to end him burned hot. But beyond the knife, his eye was steady, not pleading, accepting. Show me, she said finally, lowering the blade just enough. But understand this, your debt will never be paid. He nodded once. I know. The deeper they descended, the less the city above seemed real. Gone were the crowded streets and neon signs of the surface. Here, only dripping pipes and flickering lights accompanied their steps. Ceres guided Kalen down narrow crawlways, her 4 eyes scanning for sensors and tripwires. His injured leg slowed them, but he never once asked her to stop. They found temporary refuge in a derelict supply depot, dust lying thick on abandoned crates. Kalen collapsed onto a rusted bench, his coat heavy with blood. He pulled a terminal closer, the pale glow reflecting in his single gray eye. Saris paced behind him, white hair glowing ghost-like in the dimness. "Tell me," she said, her voice edged sharp, "how many more convoys did you sell?" Kalen's fingers froze over the keys. For a long time, he didn't answer. Then, "One job. One signal. I thought it was clean. Data for credits. No questions. No questions." Saris's voice cracked, all four eyes narrowing in fury. "You didn't wonder why someone paid premium rates for the location of a refugee convoy? Children, Kalen." He met her glare without flinching. "I wasn't thinking of children. I wasn't thinking at all." Her blade flashed again, cold against his throat. "Give me one reason not to end you here." "I can't," he said. His voice carried no defense, no excuse. "But I can help you break them out." Silence pressed between them, broken only by the hum of the old machine. Her breathing was ragged, her hands trembling. At last, she sheathed the knife. "You live," she said. "For now." The terminal spat out schematics, cell blocks, guard rotations, security overrides. Among the data, 23 Verethan captives, still alive in the labs beneath the fighting pits. Saris studied the maps, memorizing every angle. Kalen's jaw clenched. His hands were steady, but his shoulders hunched like the weight of every line of data pressed down on him. They moved again, through seldom used shafts that smelled of stagnant water. In one chamber they stumbled upon a ragged band of refugees hiding in an old water treatment plant, green-skinned, copper-skinned, children with wary eyes. One little girl, mottled and thin, shrank back the moment Kalen approached. "He kills," she whispered to an older boy. The boy took the water ration Kalen offered, nodding with quiet thanks. "Forgive her. She's seen things." "Haven't we all?" Kalen muttered, retreating. When they left, the little girl ran forward and pressed something into his hand, a thin bracelet woven of wire scraps. "Protection," she said. Kalen crouched, his scarred face softening. "From what?" "From the shadows that follow you." He tied it around his wrist. Later, Saris noticed him touch it unconsciously, fingers brushing the rough cord as though it anchored him. "You're superstitious," she said. "No," he corrected, voice low. "Respectful." They pushed deeper. Security tightened the closer they came to the pits. Kalen's codes carried them past 3 doors, but the last required a direct splice. As he worked, a drone detected motion and fired. Kalen moved before Saris could, throwing himself into the blast meant for a maintenance worker hiding nearby. He staggered, smoking wound in his shoulder, but still managed to destroy the drone with a shot. Saris knelt, pressing fabric against the wound. "That was foolish." "Probably," he muttered through clenched teeth. "You didn't know him." "Didn't need to." The contradiction unsettled her. How could the man who had sold her people for coin also throw himself in front of a stranger without hesitation? The question gnawed at her as they breached the final corridor. That was when they found her, a small Verethan child huddled in an alcove. Her purple skin was sickly pale, one eye swollen shut from crude experiments. She whimpered when Saris knelt beside her. "She can't move quietly," Kalen said, glancing at his timer. 6 minutes until lockdown. "We can't carry her and reach the others." "Leave her." Saris's voice trembled with fury. "Come back after." "She'll be gone after," Saris snapped. Kalen's jaw tightened. "Then I'll stay. You get the others out." "That's suicide." "You don't need me." His single eye met all 4 of hers, unflinching. "You never have." The words hit like a blow. They stripped her bare, revealing the truth she had carried for years, that her strength was isolation, and isolation had cost her everything. She pulled her tattered jacket around the child, swaddling her against her chest. "We move together," she said, her tone final. Kalen stared a long moment, then nodded. "All of us." They advanced toward the holding cells, where mercenaries waited in formation. 12 men, armor gleaming, weapons ready, blocking the path. Too many to fight. Saris calculated odds. None were good. "There must be another way," she whispered. "There isn't." Kalen's leg bled through his bandage, his breathing harsh. Still he stood straight. "No reinforcements are coming. It's us or no one." "This isn't necessary," she hissed, even as she knew otherwise. "It is," he said simply. "From the moment I sold those coordinates, this was where I was headed." His gray eyes softened as he looked at her. "Get them out. All of them. Don't look back." The knife in her hand felt impossibly heavy. When she pressed it into his palm, her fingers lingered. He accepted it with a nod. "Second level. Eastern Quadrant. Code 7734 reversed. Tell Maris in the settlement that Drax sent you." She memorized every word. Then, with a final breath, she climbed into the ventilation shaft, the child clutched to her chest. Behind her, Kalen turned toward the mercenaries. Boots scraped stone. His blade gleamed in the half-light. The last thing she heard before disappearing into the ducts was his deep, steady voice. "Who wants to be first?" The roar of the arena thundered above like a living storm. Saris guided the children through the ducts, her white hair tangled and heavy with dust, her light purple skin streaked with sweat. She didn't allow herself to think of Kalen. Not yet. Not while 23 lives clung to her direction. The holding cells were exactly where his data had promised. The doors responded to the override code he had given her. Inside, she found her people, thin, trembling, skin dulled from hunger, eyes wide with fear. Children pressed against adults, and adults who should have been warriors could barely stand. "Verathans," Saris said, voice carrying strength she did not feel. "I am Saris Vera. You are free." They did not cheer. They had no strength for it. But they rose. And together, they followed her into the tunnels. The path was cruel. Automated defenses deployed gas into the passages, acrid and burning. Saris tore strips of cloth, tying them over the mouths of the smallest. A boy panicked and bolted down a side shaft. She sprinted, diving beneath a descending barrier to drag him back before the doors sealed. Another child collapsed, lungs failing from years of damage. Saris lifted her frail body and carried her, step after step, while the others stumbled onward. Once, alarms blared as a boy tripped a scanner. Red lights, descending barriers, turrets emerging from the walls. She shoved the others forward, then flung herself back, tackling the boy to the ground just as energy bolts seared the air. They crawled beneath conduits, filthy, burned, but alive. At one checkpoint, a monitor flickered. On its grainy feed, Kalen appeared, alone in the pits, facing mercenaries with nothing but a knife. The children saw. One boy whispered, voice trembling, "That's him. The one-eyed man who sold us." Saris's chest tightened. The boy's hands curled into fists. "He took my sister. I saw his face." She could not lie. "He is paying for it now," she said. The boy stared longer, conflict twisting across his young features. Finally, he muttered, "Good." But his voice wavered with doubt. They pressed onward. Above them, thunder rose again, the crowd. The chant of thousands, "Drax. Drax. Drax." Saris forced herself not to look back, not to imagine him, not to break. She carried the smallest child, led the rest. Every corner, every junction, she guided them toward the faint taste of air at the city's edge. And then, at last, they emerged. A drainage culvert spat them into the wastelands. The sky stretched vast and grey above. The children froze, for eyes wide, staring at a horizon none of them had ever seen. One small boy gasped, whispering, "The sky. It's so big." Saris looked upward, and for a heartbeat, she was a child again on the Verethan ridges, her father's hands lifting her toward the clouds. She swallowed the ache, whispering, "Yes. It belongs to all of us." Behind them, the city roared one last time, then fell silent. She knew what that silence meant. They walked through the night, children stumbling, adults carrying the weakest. At dawn, they rested on a rocky outcropping. One boy, the same who had named Kalen as the betrayer, arranged stones in a circle. "In my village," he said, "this is how we marked warriors." Saris knelt beside him. His 4 eyes met hers. Will he be with the ancestors now? She considered, then answered softly, "No. But we are with him." The boy nodded and touched the central stone before rejoining the others. Another child showed Saris a drawing scratched into scrap metal, a lone figure standing against many shadows. Saris closed her eyes. "We carry him," she said. "All of us. That's why we walk." As the sun rose, the survivors pressed onward. Their blue and purple skin caught the morning light, their steps slow but unbroken. Behind them, the city shrank into the haze. Somewhere inside lay Kalen Drax, fallen among his enemies. A betrayer. A protector. A man who found, in his last breath, which side he belonged to. Saris touched the blade at her belt, its twin buried with him. She had not forgiven him. Perhaps she never would. But she understood. And in understanding, she found a shard of peace. The road ahead stretched long. The settlement of Maris waited beyond the horizon. They would rebuild what had been shattered, carrying their scars, their stories, and the memory of the one-eyed man who had bought their freedom with his blood. And that's where our journey leaves us, at the edge of freedom, with a fractured people stepping into the vast unknown. Saris Vera, with her light purple skin and her 4 watchful eyes, carried more than just survivors out of the city. She carried the weight of betrayal, the burden of promises broken, and the fragile spark of hope that still flickered among her people. Kalen Drax never sought forgiveness. He knew it was beyond reach. But in the end, he gave what he could. His strength, his life, his final stand in the blood-soaked pits. The crowd that came for entertainment instead witnessed sacrifice, a spectacle of defiance that would echo long after the dust settled. For the children, it was the first taste of sky. For Saris, it was the reminder that even after chains, after pain, after loss, a people can rise again. And for us, it's a story of scars, scars that define, scars that guide, scars that remind us of both our worst failures and our deepest courage. If you've been with me this far, thank you. Stories like this remind us of resilience, of humanity, sometimes buried in the most unlikely places. If you felt something in this tale, if Kalen's sacrifice or Saris's unbroken resolve stirred something in you, then let's keep these stories alive. Please, don't forget to subscribe for more journeys across stars and shadows. Like this video if the tale struck you, and most importantly, share it with someone who could use a reminder. Even when the world tries to break you, you can keep walking. Together, let's keep carrying the stories and of hope.